Hello everyone, my name is Alexandra and I will guide you through the afternoon on the Grace Hopper stage. High quality data is the backbone of any data project, not only in the context of big data and AI. Despite the importance of high quality data, many companies still have an overall data health that's unreliable. Our next speaker, Arne Ottens, Senior Solutions Engineer, EMEA Central at Talend Germany, will show you in the next session how enterprises can be enabled to operate with confidence in their data. Arne, we are very excited to hear your presentation.
Thanks for having me. So before we dive into the topic, I want to share with you a few anecdotes. So if you search the internet for machine learning fails, for example, you will find a great variety of different stories about it. But two of them will almost always come up. The first one is from a little company called Microsoft. A few years ago, they tried to implement a chatbot based on artificial intelligence. And it started out as a very caring and lovely chatbot. But overnight, it turned into a racist one that also hated the women. And why was that? Because it was fed with bad data, with foul language from Twitter trolls. The other story I want to share with you is about another small company called IBM, who went on an adventure in order to cure cancer with a special variety of their product called Watson. But unfortunately, they failed as well with their undertaking. And why was that? Because they trained Watson only based on hypothetical data, or in other terms, made up data. So you see, it's not easy to be successful with your machine learning attempts, even if you are one of the major companies out there. But what these failures have in common is that were based on bad, unreliable data that you could not trust. So there's a better example to accomplish a successful endeavors, like, again, Microsoft, who were able to predict every single elimination game of the Football World Championship in 2014. But what was the difference? The difference was that they had enough data, trustworthy data, some secret ingredients, of course, and a little bit of magic. But this brings us to the topic of this talk today, how you can detect quality issues in your data using the Talend Trust Score. And that's exactly what we will see in the next few minutes. We will discuss the importance of trusted data, the impact of unreliable data, and how the industry's first data health indicator can help you increase your data health and thus enable you to make better decisions. With this, a very warm welcome from my side. My name is Arne Ottens. I'm a Senior Solutions Engineer at Talend, and as such, I'm responsible for customers with a focus on data management, big data topics, as well as different cloud technologies. My background is originally the software development space and the data engineering space, and I'm thrilled to be here on stage to give you this presentation today. And it is all about trust, as I mentioned in this session already, and trust in your data, to be precise, how to measure it, how to improve it, and finally, how to apply it to make better decisions in the end of the day. And what quote could be better for this topic than the one from Salesforce founder Matt Benioff, who says that you should think again if trust is not the most important thing for you and your company. So let that sink in for a second. If the most important thing to you and your company is not trust, you really should look again. And of course, you can only make good decisions based on trust, based on a solid foundation. And it's no wonder that companies nowadays want to be data-driven, because data is really what you need in order to make those decisions. You want to know how successful your marketing campaign was, you need to have data for that. You want to reduce costs in a production environment, you guessed it, you need data for that. However, although most companies, if not all, claim to be data-driven or strive to be data-driven, majority of them also claim that they have an overall data situation that's unreliable and not trustworthy. And this is a big problem. So I recently spoke with a customer, and they were selling a broad variety of different products. But in this Zoom session we had people from different departments, and all had a different understanding of what kind of products they are selling. So no one could tell me with confidence what is their actual product palette. And if you don't have this knowledge, the confidence in your data to make such a statement, how can you actually improve the situation you are in if you, for example, want to do adjustments to your product palette? So keep that in mind. And data chaos, we call it, is really what is standing in the way of companies investing in and getting more return from their data assets. So they want to have trust in their data, but their landscape overall is very complex, and thus it's hindering them to move forward. So in a typical environment we see nowadays, we have data sources 400 plus, so 400 and more different sources to get data from, databases, software as a service applications, and so on and so forth. On top of that, you have a broad variety of different tools to work with this data. So this all adds complexity and overall creates something called shadow IT, which it's estimated to cost you, the entire economy, $1.5 trillion a year. So that's a sheer amount of money, and we should really focus on getting rid of that and to reduce that number. And also, this cost of shadow IT is the one thing, but the other thing that you cannot trust your data is costing you approximately 30% of lost revenue just due to bad data. So overall, you have bad data quality, governance issues because you have so much data sources and toolings. It's costing you 30% of annual revenue, and you have approximately 2/3 of your data sets you have that might be very useful and that might be in very good condition, have very good quality. It's unused because all these hindrances. And finally, it is very difficult due to these obstacles to be successful with your data transformation projects. So it's estimated that almost half of all these data transformation projects fail, while only 10% exceed their expectations. That's certainly something we could change. So as a result of this data chaos, it's very hard for decision makers to make a good decision or to make a decision at all because they have only limited data. So not all the relevant information is available to them. It might be outdated, so it's not the latest information about a campaign or about your product palette. And it is confusing. It's difficult to understand. There is no documentation about this information. There is no one you can ask because the responsibilities are not clear. Then the information may be accurate. You don't know where it's coming from, whether it is correct, and you should use it at all. And to conclude all this, the data is unreliable. So you don't know whether it's the right to use, whether you are even allowed to use it. And now think about this guy you see here on screen. Maybe he is a CFO, a chief financial officer, who is reviewing some dashboards and reports about the production, about marketing, sales expenses, and he's looking to reduce cost. But where shall he start if the data is so bad and it doesn't give him a solid foundation? Maybe he's a chief revenue officer and wants to make fresh investments into a certain area of the company. Again, if the data is not accurate, where shall he invest? Or maybe it's a marketing officer who wants to check the performance about the last marketing campaigns. Again, all these are typical situations that companies all around the globe face on a daily basis. And based on bad information, bad, unreliable data, they cannot make these decisions with confidence. So I'm asking you, what if your organization could make these decisions with confidence? Maybe you could transform your customer experience. Maybe you could increase operational efficiency. Maybe reduce risk and ensure compliance, which is a big topic in Europe nowadays, or innovate even faster. And this is all what Talend enables you with what we call the trust score. So the Talend Trust Score measures the health of your business data based on different metrics. And really, you can measure all the data you have, any piece of data you have. And think about your daily life. If you want to go to a restaurant, if it's, again, possible, of course, if you want to go on a vacation, if you want to order takeout, all we do today is we go to an app like TripAdvisor, Uber, Yelp to get information about those services. We want to ensure that what we are ordering next has a high product quality, a high quality of service, and we have all this at our fingertips. And the idea of the Talend Trust Store is to do the very same thing for you based on your data sets. So I talked a lot about this trust score and the concept of trust. Let's dive into a data set we applied this to and see how this actually looks in action. So here we are in a web browser, and we see we are consuming our e-commerce customers data set. And here we already see this trust score and the different dimension it's made out of. So it's not only considering data quality aspects as we see down here, where we have an indication about invalid values, valid values, empty values. And these valid values, they are not only based on, hey, this is a text field, there should be text information in it. It's also considering the context. So if it's identified that most of the information in there is about addresses, it checks the validity against addresses. So is it an address, then it's a valid item, otherwise it's not. And this is the very first dimension over here. The next dimension we have is popularity. So you can give ratings, you can give feedback about your data set. So if you come across a data set that is very popular, you think, hey, this is used across the board, and many users are happy with it. So that might be a very good data set to look into it. And you can even certify it, which will increase the popularity as well. And if a data set is certified, someone puts his name behind it to say, hey, this is trustworthy data. Another aspect we have is the completeness. I already mentioned here in the data quality aspects, we have empty values. The more complete your data set, the higher this completeness score goes. I think that goes without any further information. The next aspect is discoverability. We have further capabilities like giving descriptions about the data sets, like documentation, doing custom attributes, adding tags. So annotate your data set with more information that makes it more transparent to your users. What is this data set about? What shall it be used for? What kind of information will you find in there? This makes a data set discoverable and enables you to have a better understanding after all. And then there's, last but not least, the usage indicator. How often is a data set used? How often is it opened? How often is it updated? In what kind of situations is it used? All this feeds into this trust score. And you see here, this data set is not used that much. It has a low popularity, and it's not very well documented, which ends up in a trust score of 2.71 out of 5. So this is certainly something we should work on, and this is something you can then do right away. You can start filling these empty values, converting those invalid values into valid ones, and pass it on to a colleague to work on it, so that you not only have a first glance, what is the situation about this data set, but also the possibility to actually increase this trust score, increase the data quality. And yeah, this is, I think the time is almost over now. Like, I think in the last 15 or so minutes, we talked about what the companies nowadays see when it comes to data. They want to be data-driven, but also know that many of their data sets, many of their assets, they cannot really trust, and they need to do something about it. So, and this is why Talend came up with this industry's first data trust score to measure your health Also, in order to get rid of this unbelievable impact of almost 30% of lost revenue. That's just insane. So if you like what you've seen with this trust score in the application, you can go to a website called assessor.trustscore.talend.com and give it a try yourself. So you can throw in your very own data set in order to get these 5 dimensions I just introduced to you. Or if you don't want to throw your trusted data set to us, there's also some examples you can use in order to give it a try and get a sense and the feeling of these trust score calculations. And with that, it was my pleasure, and we can jump to the Q&A.
Thank you very much for introducing the Talend Trust Score to us. So we still have a few minutes for some questions. So what would you say are the main reasons for poor data quality?
Anywhere where human beings are involved, these processes are error-prone. Like a hotel chain that was charged with a significant GDPR fine. They tried to improve the processes and speed up the check-in process of their guests. And rather than having different fields for different pieces of information, they just wrote everything in one line. And that was then put into the address field in a database. And when they started to write mails, like physical mails to their clients, all kind of sensitive information was printed on the envelope. So it's everywhere where the human being is involved, you will find errors, and that's just who we are.
Yeah, that's true. And do you think there are certain industries that are more prone to poor data quality than others?
Well, nobody is really protected from poor data quality. And there are certainly industries where it's a more significant risk. Like the banking industry, if you have bad data in there, then you put your business at risk. This hospitality example, but I'm pretty sure all the other industries out there face similar situations, maybe not with a significant impact like that.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Arne, for being here today.